Hello, it is Brandon. I love Apple Plus Christmas movies.
I'm Dan. I despise Apple Plus Christmas movies.
It's Jax, and I'm excited to be here with Brandon and Alonzo.
I'm Alonzo, and I guess Apple TV movies are a thing now. And this
Is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast.
Brandon and friends host his podcast.
We hope you like this jolly podcast.
So,
Well, hello, everybody. No?
Two things happened there. One was that if I'd done the musical number, we'd still be here because a 4 would have been too many. But Jax decided not even to talk about. She just said she was excited to be here with her friends, and that wasn't even it was barely an introduction. Jax was just like, "I'm going to throw it out, and I'm just going to say I'm excited to be here with
She's feeling the
my
spirit.
friends."
Feeling the spirit is exactly right. Feeling the spirit. You know what I was feeling the spirit was this past weekend at Christmas Con.
Dude, Jax's
Oh my
stage,
gosh.
the South
Jack's
Pole
stage
stage was
was-
where it
Guys,
was
I
happening.
was shocked
going
that
nuts.
everyone.
the locus of all activity.
Guys, honestly, like I know we were joking around before Christmas Con that no one was going to come, but the fact that like everyone actually showed up at the second
Yeah.
stage at the South Pole,
Yeah,
and it was
man.
really overwhelming, and it was like the spot to be at Christmas Con. I really appreciated it. Oh my gosh!
Well,
and
listen.
Dan, when you did that, I couldn't
Oh,
believe it.
look. Once in a lifetime
Once in a
opportunity
lifetime.
there.
But I'll say this: when the Christmas Con people came over and they started begging people to come and ask for autographs because everybody was at the second stage, I was like, "Wow,
So they're losing money.
they're losing money
That's right.
here."
That's right.
We
That's
can't-
right.
So I don't know. The South Pole stage
South
maybe
Pole
no more
stage.
next year.
Yeah,
because-
you're gonna do it. You're branching off to do your own thing.
You'll be
And
the
maybe
North
for-
Pole stage.
Maybe if you're lucky, next year they'll move you out to the parking lot.
Ooh.
They keep trying to get me further and further away from this convention.
You'll
We'll
be in
see, like-
Pennsylvania.
That means at some point you'll be at Harold's Deli, which is better for
Yeah,
me
that's right.
anyway. So
Ooh,
I
okay,
will be
nice.
there the whole time. That's perfect.
That's
One-stop shopping.
That's right.
Thanks to everybody who came out and said
Oh,
hello.
man.
It was
It's
so
always
much
a blast.
fun.
It's a
So much
whirlwind.
fun. It really is.
Yeah.
We met a lot of wonderful people. If this is your first time listening to us or watching us on the Philo TV, hello. Thanks for finding us. Happy
Yeah.
that you did
I
so.
know this is on Apple TV Plus, which means it's not really on any other streaming services.
Right.
But gosh, the one button ad skip has been saving our lives. this
Clutch
holiday season.
money
It's been
over on the
unbelievable.
Philo TV. It's
Yeah,
been
it has.
wonderful. Apple TV Plus. They're.
I just wish they'd spent some money on it, Brandon. That's all I'm saying.
That's what I'm getting at here. Is just I don't know. It just really seemed like they could have maybe not put all the money into this. It seems like a lot of money. Seems like a lot of money was put into this movie.
Want to do it right.
Wanted to do it right. And then they're out there all willy-nilly. I can get a 3-month free trial to Apple TV just from sneezing. They're just offering them for anybody and everyone for any reason.
You bought a bag of chips? Please try a year of Apple TV.
Please try our service.
Oh, on
Please.
this bag of Doritos, here's a QR code for a lifetime supply of Apple TV Plus.
Congratulations, you made it. Congratulations. Jax, were you going to say something? I thought you were getting in on the fun there.
Oh no, I was just enjoying the fun.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
just,
yeah.
I don't know if you heard the intro. She just enjoys being here.
I'm
She
just
just
happy
enjoys-
to be here with my
She's happy to be
friends.
here, and she
I-
likes to ski.
Yeah, I like to ski. I totally
Yeah.
forgot which movie we were supposed to watch, so I actually haven't seen Spirited yet.
Good. So
No,
you
I'm
really
kidding.
are just here with your friends.
No.
Perfect. Good.
No, I loved this movie, but I'm really happy to be talking about it with you guys.
Hot
Can I
take
say?
isn't
Can
here
I
yet.
say this? Can I say this really quickly?
Do it.
The ratings are out for Fit for Christmas, and Jax, you officially got better ratings than Andrew Walker, Tyler Hines, and Paul Campbell.
You know what? And I will say
Me
this.
personally.
Personally.
I've not seen the film yet, but I will say this. When you put Paul Green, Jacqueline Collier in a movie that airs right after a great Bengals Chiefs game, the skies is the limit. The sky's the limit.
CBS once again going for that youth market. You know, they know their wheelhouse on this.
Yeah.
I forgot that movie was on afterwards, but that game was great, and I will get to the movie. I promise you. But what a game!
Did it air immediately after, or
I
were there
think so.
60 minutes first?
60 Minutes, but then
Yeah.
there was a
It
game
went
on a
to
different
6
channel.
Well,
Yeah.
are you on the East Coast or the West Coast? It gets
Yeah, that's true.
complicated.
you could you look at the 60-minute ratings and then look at the Fit for Christmas ratings and be like, wow, a lot of people didn't watch it. You could, but also you could look at the
When I
Fit.
looked- okay, you know what was most surprising? The fact that many people watched 60 Minutes.
It was
Oh,
also
people
like-
love the 60
I
minutes.
didn't
like
realize
that
11
show will
million
never
people.
die.
No. People get mad if the 60 minutes doesn't air. That's true.
Yeah, good golly, Miss.
But
That
the
show
Molly.
biggest
will not
thing
die until its audience does.
Yeah.
The biggest thing about 60 Minutes is I never know how long it's going to be.
Oh my gosh. We just Merry Christmas. Shut it down. We're done. Turn the lights off.
Because
Everybody go home.
Because
Yeah.
of the name of it.
Mhm.
Because of the name of it.
Name
Oh,
of
good.
it, yeah.
Explaining a joke always makes it funnier, and that one was so good to begin with.
Well, because
I'm glad
the
we
name
went
of
there.
it is it's 60
Okay,
minutes.
I beg you.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about Spirited?
Would love
Please,
to.
yes, anything.
Anybody other than Alonzo see this on the big screen?
I did not. I watched it last night.
Okay. On a big screen or on
A
your phone?
75-inch
Okay.
flat screen TV.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's a big screen.
Ooh.
Someone's got a
originally-
man cave.
That's right. Originally aired on
It's
the
called a
Apple
living room.
the Apple TV Plus. Theaters on November 11th, and then Apple TV Plus on November 18th. And it went a little something like this. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's these ghosts, and there's a past one, a current one, a
Present.
future, present one, if you will, and
Goes
they're
to Christmas current.
they do stuff. They
There's
do
electricity.
stuff. They go. They find some bad people. They ghost them up. Sometimes they sing
They
in the
haunt
process. They ghost them up. Is what I like to
Okay.
say. Let's get our ghost on. So Christmas Present, played by Will Ferrell. As you know, Will Ferrell, and he's up for retirement. He
Yes.
has been for quite some time, but for some reason he keeps getting back into the ghosty ghost. So they're looking for next year's person to haunt, to ghost.
Yep.
And in the process of doing that, he finds a guy named Clint Briggs. Clint Briggs is a real stinker. He's out there just spewing hatred, spewing the fake news. It's bad stuff that this Clint Briggs is doing here. And so Present goes to the group and he says, I think that Clint Briggs is our guy. And head honcho Marley says, no. That is an unredeemable. And this really seems to bother Present. Present is like, no, that shouldn't be the reason why we don't go after him. And actually an unredeemable has been redeemed one other time. And so finally they're given the okay to give this a shot. They start researching Clint. They start preparing. And finally it is time to give it a shot. And in the process, they're doing all the research, they're looking at all the stuff. He ends up, even though he's a ghost, he ends up meeting Clint's assistant, and he's like, wow, like her. They see some different things that he's doing that's truly deplorable, like helping his niece basically blackmail someone that she's running against as class president. All really good in the up and up stuff. So goes to haunt, and Clint is very like, no, not really I'm not impressed by this. What, you're not going to be. So they keeps like showing him stuff, and he's just like, nothing is bothering him. Nothing is happening. It's just like, whatever. And so Present has to get fancy here. He has to go outside the box. And so he tells him that he was once a fella named Ebenezer Scrooge. And he's the only other unredeemable to ever have gone through the program. And so they go to he shows him as a back in the day. They sing a song, classic stuff. And so now he's just kind of like, okay, well, now I kind of want to, Clint is like, okay, now that I know this about you, I kind of want to lean into this, want to explore you a little bit more. And he's like, no, that's not the point here. But then he finds out that he's up for retirement, and he's like, man, maybe that's what you should be doing. And finally, Present shows him what happens when the kid they post a video of the kid running for president, and serious stuff is happening here. We're seeing the effects of some of the negativity. And finally, for the first time, Clint is like, that's not good, but you can't blame me, basically, does this whole thing. Everybody still with me? Everybody still with me? I didn't stop.
I know, so why'd you ask that?
I was just making sure.
Okay, great.
I'm just making sure you guys are still with me.
No, I'm locked
so
in.
Clint finally convinces President that he should take retirement, go to Earth, and he's like, okay, I'm in it. And he ends up waking up in Clint's apartment, promptly goes and asks, is it Kimberly out on a date? They walk around, they're talking, they're singing. Did you know this was a musical at this point?
Yeah. You not told me, but I did watch.
Had you figured it out by this point of the movie?
Yeah.
So Clint is then meets yet to come, shows him glimpses of the future, including what happens to his niece's classmate after she posts this video. It is not something that he likes, really bothers him. So instead of watching what happens, he ends up just running away, running through like the different sets and going through to places he's not supposed to go to. And finally, he is stopped by Past and Yet to Come, who make him go back to Earth. And when he gets back to his apartment, he is with Present, and Present finds out what's about to happen, and so they go to stop his niece from posting this video. And they have to run through this ice, and Kimberly stops and is like, hey, I already told her that not to post this video. Also, I'm quitting. And so great. And so President is like, wonderful. We stopped the thing that was going to happen. This should be the big congratulations. The ghosts are going to be coming. Wait for the music. And when the music doesn't start and the ghosts never show up to tell him, congratulations, you're a redeemed soul, he's like, wow, what's going on here? And President begins to question everything. If I can't redeem an unredeemable, am I even redeemed? Is any of this real? What's the point of any of this? He's about to walk in front of a bus when Clint pushes him out of the way of the bus. Time freezes just before the bus hits Clint, and the music begins to hit. You did a good thing. You're happy. You're redeemed. Yay. And you're like, oh, wonderful. This is all good. And then it starts again, and Clint gets hit by the bus. It still happens, and he is killed. We then see that Clint is now the ghost of Christmas Present. He is expanding the program as he does. He's looking for other holidays. He is visiting Present on a regular basis, now going by Roberto. And he's married to Kimberly. They have 2 kids, and they still work together with ideas of how to redeem souls. And we are better for it. And that, my friends, was Spirited.
We did it.
Was it a long synopsis or a short synopsis?
Can I say this? It's one of your synopses.
Thank you. Thank you.
Only Post knows for sure.
That's exactly right.
We just negated, I believe, Ryan Reynolds' sister from the entire synopsis, which is impressive.
Yeah, she was there, and she wasn't there, and then now she's there at the end.
There's a lot of moving parts, Daniel.
There's a lot happening in this movie. There's a lot happening.
If you want to write the synopses, you're fine, and you can decide what to keep in and what to take out.
If I want to write the synopses, I'm fine.
You're fine to do so.
I can?
You can if you want to.
Awesome.
Has that been what you've been waiting for this whole time?
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back where we break down Spirited here on Deck the Netflix. We're back.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Deck the Netflix. I hope you're doing well on this wonderful Monday. Let's talk about Spirited, Apple TV Plus, big budget, big stars, big fun. Let's find out. Jax, let's start with your hot take. What did you think of Spirited?
Oh, this movie was a triumph. I loved it. This was the kind of movie that afterwards I wanted to talk to people about it, and not just on a podcast, which is normally the only way I engage with people about movies. I wanted to talk to people in my real life about movies. And yeah, I just thought this was really fun. It's the kind of buddy comedy that I enjoy, where there's so much heart, and it's a musical. I mean, like it's just so expansive, so much fun. I thought that the romance between Octavia Spencer and Will Ferrell was incredibly charming. I thought the kid actors were incredible. I'm tough on kid actors because I coach kid actors. I don't always talk about kid actor performances because I never like to say anything bad about them publicly. But what I will say is that these two kid actors were exceptional. And yeah, I would watch this all day long. I loved it.
So what that means is that anytime you don't mention a kid
That's
actor,
right.
you
That's
think
right.
that
They were a disappointment.
They
is what I'm
so
saying.
hooked.
Honestly, yeah.
So this movie was just okay for me. I have already gone on national TV and said
Yes, you
that
did.
I like Ghost of Christmas Always on Hallmark Channel more than this movie, and I stand by that. It's just who
Man,
I am.
Somebody screenshot Alonzo's face.
Was
It's
Alonzo
like,
disappointed in me? Was Alonzo
Oh, it was
disappointed
so
in me?
perfect.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy most of the songs in this particular movie, which is shocking because I actually like
The Greatest
Pasek and
Showman.
Paul. I like Pasek and Paul like in general. Most of the movies that they do music for, including Lyle Lyle Crocodile, I absolutely love. Didn't really hit me for this one. Yeah, the performances are wonderful. The budget is just bonkers. They do things in this movie that you're just like, I can't believe I'm forced to sit and watch this at my house. It feels wrong, which is why Alonzo told everybody to see it in theaters if they could. We couldn't.
We couldn't.
I imagine that I would have enjoyed this a good bit more on the theatrical screen. Good Christmas vibes, good snows, good performances. Just okay for Bran. There's your hot take. I'm here. I'm giving hot takes and taking names.
I'll tell you. Well, the thing about the songs scans, because I generally don't like Pasek and Paul. I didn't care for Greatest Showman or Dear Evan Hansen. So they did work for me this time, and they worked for me more the second time I watched it. So, maybe that's your gauge. If you don't like these guys, you'll like Spirited.
That's funny. Maybe I should watch it again though. Maybe they'd hit differently.
I think it absolutely, like, this is a movie that is it. I mean, one of my criticisms when I first saw it was that this movie is overstuffed, but as such, I think it yields more upon subsequent viewings because, like,
Sure.
the first time I was so just with the plot stuff and the incredible musical numbers and the choreography and everything that I didn't really get to sort of unpack the notion of, like, when we talk about like Scrooge and everything, this idea of how long does that last? How long before people start backsliding, before they start turning to their worst selves again, before they start rationalizing their behavior? And that's a really interesting idea that the Ryan Reynolds character really unpacks here. I enjoyed Ghost of Christmas Always. I think it's certainly one of the best of the Hallmark crop this year, but I think this movie is operating on a whole nother level. And I don't think that's disparaging the hard work of the people who did Ghost of Christmas Always to say so. This for me is this enters the canon. Like, I think this is one I'm going to go back and watch year after year, and I hope people get to see it projected because, again, and I'm not a snob about you have to see it in the big theater, but the choreography in this movie is so breathtaking and so diverse. I mean, there's so many different kinds of dancing going on in this movie that I think it really pops on the big screen, and I was fortunate to get to see it that way in a press screening. It barely screened in theaters in LA, so I can only imagine what options people in other cities had. Like Apple TV Plus sort of did, I think, the minimum to kind of let people see it that way. It's sort of like Netflix and Glass Onion. But yeah, even if you're just watching it at home on your 75-inch or whatever you've got in your home theater, this is stunning. The performances are great. It's funny. It's moving. It's got a lot of ideas, and it's super Christmassy. I'm a fan.
Yeah. So Bran did on national TV 10 days ago-ish say that Ghost of Christmas Always was better than Spirited. And let me tell you something about Bran. He's dead wrong. Spirited. Look, the thing about Will Ferrell in general is that his movies are not all ever home runs, but he very clearly and sincerely is doing things that he cares about. Always. Like, he doesn't have any desire to make the same movie over and over again, and he doesn't uphold these weird standards to his movies. He just is like, what if we did this? And then he goes and he tries it. This guy's not an amazing singer, but he commits fully to this bit like nothing I've really ever seen. If I have a complaint about the movie is the first 30 to 40 minutes should be about 12 minutes. Like I feel like there's about 2 or 3 extra numbers. The plane's just not taking off. I was very worried 30 or 40 minutes into this movie that I was going to hate it.
That I was going to be right.
But yes, no. I wasn't
And
worried.
I know that's your biggest.
No. It's
biggest
all right.
worry.
I'll just say so. But in the first half an hour, I was like, we are establishing the heck out of this movie. Like it's just too much. Like we're watching the director's cut. But once this thing gets going, it's really good. And then from the moment that they sing the song Unredeemable, I wouldn't change a frame. I think the last 45 to 50 of this are as Christmas classic as it gets. The musical numbers and not only that, but The Greatest Showman, thanks. I hate it. It's really bad. This movie, the songs stuck with me, but they all served a purpose, at least for the last half of the movie. I love it is a very high concept premise, and almost to its detriment, but I love the fact that you have this idea of what does it really mean to be redeemed? And it's not, you're just amazing all the time. Like it's this, like there's a light switch and it's either you're just hot garbage or you're a great human being. And those are the only 2 options. Whereas this movie gives you the ability to say, hey, like to be better, it takes like a long line of positivity and good in a single direction. It's not just like you jumped over to the right side of the fence. And so I appreciated that. Octavia Spencer's wonderful. The first 40 minutes, I was very concerned. After that, it was an absolute 10 of 10 home run. And so I would watch it again, and we'll probably watch it next Christmas. Great. Yeah, that's where I am with it.
Let's talk about feels. Jax?
I was extremely charmed by the romance between Ryan Reynolds' character and Sunita Mani. They had like it's very kind of like fun and flirty and sexy. And I like the whole bit that she's doing where she's like, oh my God, you're so obsessed with me kind of thing. But with all that humor built in, then at the end where she had the moment where they're working together now and she's like, oh, don't use that as an excuse to be home late. I genuinely welled up. I was like, I'm so happy they're together. I'm so happy they're together. And I just found it extremely, extremely charming. I also got big feels when his niece, when we find out she didn't post it and she looks up at him with these big wide eyes and is like, please don't be mad at me. And he gives her this big hug. I was like, oh, they got me again there. So yeah, I really thought, and Dan, I love what you were saying about this really on a pretty existential level, like flips this story on its head and makes us think about, what does it mean to sort of even to struggle with ourselves as people. It's like, it's not an end goal, what happens after. And I was sort of being like, oh God, I'm glad I'm in therapy now because this is bringing up a lot of things.
It's the Frozen 2, which is more inexplicable than this film from a plot standpoint, but they talk about doing the next right thing. Like that is the thing that we get to in this movie is like, it's not about like just flipping on the good switch. It's like, what's the next thing to do that's right? And I really thoroughly appreciate it.
And you're going to sing that song later.
I will sing it later. It'll be after the credits and the commercials in the episode.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So you really got to stay tuned.
Yeah.
Give me those Christmas feels real quick. An ice skating rink on top of a roof while it's snowing. Yeah, sign me up every day of the week, and in the good words of Panda, twice on Sunday. Yeah. And I loved it. And when he's about to be struck by a vehicle and it freezes and we're frozen in time and the snow's all around you and the ghosts start coming down and they're singing and it's all happening. They do the big number in the snow and yeah, that was a moment. That was a Christmas vibe right there that I was here for 100%. Alonzo?
I saw this movie with a friend of mine who's a visual effects producer, and that whole snow frozen in the air thing, which they hang on to for that entire number, he's like, that is so expensive. That is so expensive to keep that. Like usually they'll establish it and then get rid of it because they keep it in there over and over again. Like that's an individual frame by frame thing that costs so much money. So, you know, that's just one of the many ways in which this movie is really like a lush budget. A lot of feels here. I think the recurring Octavia Spencer song, "The View from Here," is really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And usually with Pasek and Paul, I'm more about like the big, like it's a musical number as opposed to like an individual's, you know, cry from the heart. But I thought she really sells that. The stakes and resolution of the yet to come involving the kid, I thought was really well handled. I love the fact that they kill Ryan Reynolds, and not because I'm morbid, but because so many movies set up the hero's sacrifice and it happens and then they undo it because they don't want to leave people with a bummer ending. And so it's like, well, then that meant nothing. That meant nothing. And I've seen it in so many movies in the last 5 or 10 years. It drives me up the wall. So the fact that they carried through and committed to that and made it mean something, I'm like, good on you, movie. That is, I wish, like, you know, Tom Cruise's Oblivion had that same sense of, you know, of chutzpah. I also love the fact that Ryan Reynolds throws a Christmas party where people come dressed as characters from other Christmas media, and is almost never underlined except for Will Ferrell confronting the guy who's dressed as Buddy Hill. But like other than that, you are left to pay attention. Go, oh, you know, like, and so I love that it just relies on you to pay attention to get the joke, and if you don't, you miss it.
Yeah. You had two of mine. I'm going to just hit them again just in case, because I just need to talk about them. The Buddy the Elf thing was wonderful. I thought it was a perfect. Will Ferrell's not done another Christmas movie since then, and he chose something completely different, and it was really a fun callback. But the idea that I believe Marley gives the line of basically, hey, the stakes have to matter or it's meaningless, right? Yeah. Like the reason these things matter in life is because they matter in death. They like what you do echoes. And so if you don't have a stake for this character, then their actions do not matter. And so that was wonderful. I literally, when he said that line, I went, like this and nodded my head. Because so many, like Marvel, the MCU, just like, that's what's so great about these Black Panther movies, is there were stakes. Whereas in the MCU, like, you know, Iron Man's not dead. I'm sorry. Don't worry, he's not. They'll make him again. And so I loved that. And then I also loved just the little bits of this that were just like stupid humor that were just enough to make it its own thing. Like the shower thing, I thought was really, really funny. You hear that, New York? I'm a once a month shower. I thought that was really, really funny. And him not knowing, like, I feel like in every movie Will Ferrell does, he doesn't know how to pronounce a common word. And at the end, the reprise thing was really, really funny. The Tiny Tim bit. So I like the fact that they could sprinkle in some of that like Anchorman type humor in this very sincere, very schmaltzy, over the top, emotive movie was just like a match made in heaven to me. So I was on board.
I want to piggyback real quick. The fact that if you have seen the musical Scrooge and you know that the nasty thing that he always says to people to get rid of them is good afternoon.
Yeah.
And that they extrapolate that into an entire musical number here. You don't have to know that that's the roots of it, but if you do, it just makes it funnier.
That was in all honesty, and this is going to sound, that was my least favorite musical number. And hearing that, I now have a better appreciation for even that one.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the throwaway comedy number, and thus a lot of people's favorite. But I mean, it's fine. It to me, it reminded me of the kind of songs that like Family Guy Seth MacFarlane, right?
Yeah,
like it sounded like a number that would have been in like A Million Ways to Die or whatever.
It was the thing where during that number, I was like, "What are we doing here?"
I hated that number.
Well, what are we like? Is this? Are we doing a movie, or is this just like whatever comes to our head? We're gonna keep, because it's elaborate. It's a long number, and that's my least favorite 5 minutes of the movie.
And again, I think it's a shout out to the '70s Scrooge when they're all out in the streets doing the thing. Like that is a moment out of Scrooge, basically. So
And then, but the thing is almost right after that, you get the unredeemable number, which
Yeah.
the flashlights that all the background
Oh,
dancers
yeah.
are using,
Mm.
which is like not only like beautiful to watch, but it's like this light versus darkness contrast with the character
Yeah.
who doesn't know which he is, which is just fantastic. So it was quickly washed out of my mouth because I was, but at that point I was like, I don't know. When that number came on.
Although when I watched it again with Dave, every time they said unredeemable, he'd go, "Isn't it irredeemable?"
Irredeemable.
And I
That's-
looked it up, and it can be either. So
that was one of my only 2 wait whats that I had. So thank you, Alonzo.
You guys, does anyone else feel like they're in the Twilight Zone right now? It's like Dan and Alonzo celebrating the nuances and
That's
humor
right.
in this movie, and Brand's just like, didn't like that number, don't like it.
That's exactly how it should be. But I will say, and this is one of my biggest fatal flaws in life, is when I know that I could have seen a movie on the big screen and I don't see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
I have a very, very hard time in my soul of letting that go. And that's a me thing.
Yeah.
That's something that the Lord has to do a work on in me. And I've talked about it many a times, but I just can't let it go. And it makes me mad.
You and
It
I
makes me
both would
mad.
prefer to see movies on the big screen all the time, but you do hold a weird vendetta
I-
against
I-
the movie itself.
I think that it is wrong. I think it's wrong on a not just a creative wrong, but also a moral thing.
wow, okay.
I think it is
well,
morally.
you know what? You had children. I don't know what to tell you.
That's right.
But
That's right.
it had nothing to do. It wasn't here. It wasn't
It was a
here.
secret movie. They showed one showing of it.
Wait, oh yeah, the secret
The
movie.
secret-
Oh, the secret movie, right?
But I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Good afternoon, Alonzo. We're back. We're talking Spirited. And let's get spirited with our wait whats. Jax, any for you?
I don't have any true wait whats, but I will say something that sort of made me wait what uncomfortable. I was, and I know this is probably the intention, but I think it just hit me in a deeper way that the child actually died by suicide as a result of this. Like I just found it almost, I know there had to be a big turn and a big shift, but for me, that took me to a little bit too dark of a place for a movie like this. So I don't know how they would have done it, but for me, it just wasn't a slam dunk for me.
I mean, I think in real life internet bullying, this sort of thing does happen. So
Yeah.
like it,
No,
it
yeah,
didn't, it didn't feel like extraneously exploitative. Like it felt like, well, that's how these things go sometimes, unfortunately.
yeah. I think that
But I hear you.
there was just a part of me that's like, well, yes, internet
It
bullying.
takes you out of the vibe.
You weren't
It takes me
prepared
out of the vibe.
emotionally. You weren't prepared emotionally.
No. And that's also because I teach at an after school program and we just had an incident like this. And there's so I think I was also not in a good headspace to see something
Sure.
like that. And I didn't expect it. And yes, it does happen with internet bullying, but I also think there's always so many other things that are going on in those kids' lives and a mental health issue that is so much more than something like that. But yeah, it took me out of the vibe of the
It was
movie.
it was sneaky because I think, the original Dickens tale is pretty dark. And I think the Ryan Reynolds character, for him to really see the error of his ways, it was going to have to be a real big punch. And I think
Yes.
showing him dead and alone wasn't going to do it. And so
Yeah.
I think it was probably a necessary move, but you feel like you're having such a good time in this movie.
Yeah.
Where with the original Christmas Carol, sometimes there's a lot of serious along the way. Whereas in this movie, there's some, but I think it's such a big wallop. I liked the turn because I think it fits the character and what would happen. But I get that if you're, the musical numbers and it's so big and so Christmassy that I feel like it was a pretty big turn from a tonal standpoint.
Yeah, like even in the original, like the Dickens, it's like, okay, yeah, Tiny Tim dies, and that, of course that's devastating and that makes sense. But like it's a different kind of death than the way this
Yes,
one rolls
correct.
out.
Yeah,
so I
and the
think that's
neglect,
just like,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
I don't know, but I so often my sticking point with a Christmas Carol adaptation is the Tiny Tim part, because that can be so gooey if you don't do it right.
Oh,
It can just be, it's such a, like, I always remember the Oscar Wilde line about Dickens that, one would have to be made of stone to read The Death of Little Nell without laughing. I think that you can really overdo the sort of the gooey melodrama in that.
yeah.
And this one I thought was like hard, and it fit the character and the character's particular sins. Scrooge's sin is that he's such a cheapskate and underpays Bob Cratchit, but Clint's sin is that he foments these like ridiculous scandals, and they do have real human consequences, and this movie gave us a real human consequence. But I get it's a tough balance for, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Of course.
I didn't have any wait what's in the traditional sense. They're all like positive wait what's. Like you brought up the flashlight dance scene, and all I could think of was while that was happening is how did somebody come up with that?
Yeah.
Like the way that it looks visually is phenomenal, and I just can't even imagine coming up with that. Same was true, like even with the when he's running through away from the gravesite and he's like running through the kind of like sets and like gets back through into this thing. I'm like, that's never even crossed my mind as a possibility of how this is done, a Christmas Carol. So I don't know. There were a lot of things that I was just like, I don't even know. Like this, it's just a wait what for me. I don't even know how you come up with that. So there are some very big and awesome things in this movie that are wait what's just from a wow. How did you do that?
Wow, how?
I mean,
What the flicks?
It's well, no. I have those, but this in it, I'm just like wow. Alonzo.
Yeah, I had to kind of stretch to come up with one because I think this is, follows its own internal logic. My only one being, we get that Christmas Present / Scrooge doesn't understand the idea of these things not sticking because he died immediately, so of course it was, he was still in the golden glow of it all. But he's been doing this for like a century, and you see like the room full of statues of people they've done this for. And how has it never come up before that somebody would then backslide after having been redeemed by the ghost? That's the one thing that I'm going to pull out of my hat here. But generally speaking, yeah, I'm kind of wait whatless.
Yeah, my only one was, and it could be one that you could answer, but what in the rules allowed Octavia Spencer to be able to see Will Ferrell? Was that just like love?
Just
Yeah,
love, right?
it's never said, but I think, love is the explanation.
His desire for that.
Because while the chemistry was there, I just felt like that escalated really quickly. Like that part of this story, and it has to because they have kids at the end, but it felt like those two I loved on screen together, but it was like, this seems like a loophole to make this escalate really quickly. That, and I thought it would be irredeemable, but unredeemable sounds better in a song. That's all I got.
What the flicks? It's where we wonder what could have happened, maybe happened. Gives me clarity questions we still have. Jax, any questions that you're still pondering over?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, and it makes sense, like with the chemistry they had, but it seems like from the age of the kids, if they are their biological kids, that Octavia Spencer and Will Ferrell got to it pretty quickly. So.
like years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that, and I enjoyed their chemistry, so I wouldn't. In a non-inappropriate PG-13 way, I wouldn't mind seeing some of it.
I wanted to hear the first version of that sentence.
That sounds fun.
My what the flicks is something, Alonzo, that you brought up. Now you have me wondering about the visual effects of the snow, because in my mind I'm seeing that and I'm like, oh cool, so you just like, I know you can put snow over top of something. I know how you do that. You just pause that sucker and boom, it's stationary snow. You're telling me that's not how it works, and now I'm intrigued by the whole process, and maybe you can get your visual effects palette.
As long as the camera is,
I
bet it's easy. But then every time they switch
the
camera
switch it.
and they're moving and dancing,
and there's a pivot, like the camera moves, and that snow stays in the same place. So that's
I would love some sort of behind the scenes visual effects editing on that specific scene, because now I'm just all the way intrigued on it.
This is one where, give me a sequel. I want to see what the Kwanzaa Ramadan ghosts look like for sure, and how that story plays out. And also I would love a prequel of the year that they did Dolly Parton. She's
Yeah.
one of the statues.
I would be totally down for another one of these, but there's no way because this had to cost just a god awful amounts of money. I do want to know, and maybe this story's been told. I want to know the genesis of this, like especially getting Will Ferrell on board, because you hear these stories like James Caan, may rest in peace, told this story of how like Will Ferrell and Jon Favreau didn't get along. That's why they never made a second Elf. And that would make sense because Favreau likes things a certain way, and Will Ferrell's like, can't we all just get along and have fun? And so you have this guy who's famous for so much, but like this Christmas movie is his thing. And for him to go back and do another Christmas movie, it seems like something that Will Ferrell wouldn't do. And so, and he's not a musical guy. Was it Will's idea to be like, I want to do a musical? Or did they have this script and all this done and be like, you know who we should get? The guy whose Christmas movie is the most famous Christmas movie of the last 20 years.
I can answer that a little bit. The director and co-writer of this film did the 2 Daddy's Home movies.
Good gosh.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
Daddy's Home 2, a Christmas classic.
Holy.
I was going to say, yeah, I know. Talk about most improved. And Daddy's Home 2 is technically a Christmas movie. So, I mean, one could argue that
it's one of the worst pieces of junk I've ever seen.
It's awful. I hate that movie. But like, one could argue that Will Ferrell's been getting his feet wet, as far as that goes.
On the record, you think Daddy's Home 2 better Christmas movie than Spirited?
Just depends on what you're talking about.
So you won't say yes or no on this?
Spirited is clearly a better film.
Yeah, okay.
But I watch Daddy's Home 2 every year because I love it. I think it makes me laugh a lot.
There you go.
I'm probably watching it this week.
That's all we need. That's all I needed.
I can't tell if Alonzo's frozen or just
he's not.
Oh no! I'm giving you the stare.
Oh my gosh! Alonzo, that was amazing.
I'm giving you the stare.
It was very good.
Listen, clearly Spirited is better qualitatively, but when has that stopped me?
Never.
Brand, tell me this: is the death of the Ryan Reynolds character the deal breaker here?
No, I don't like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Kill him every day of the week.
And twice on Sunday.
No, I think Brand probably just didn't like it to the last 30 or 40 minutes.
No, right? I'm in the same boat as you. I didn't like the beginning of this movie. It was really slow for me. Really liked it at the end.
Yeah, that's what I said. You didn't like it until the last 30 or 40 minutes.
I thought you said I liked it until.
No.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. If y'all think the beginning was slow, like one of my favorite songs in the movie, they clearly had originally meant to put there, and then they cut it and they put it over the closing credits.
Yeah, the reprise,
the Ripple number.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't even stay and listen. As soon as the screen went black, I was done.
Sorry. Oh, no. Go back and watch it. That's actually one of my favorite songs in this movie, but it was originally supposed to happen like up front, like at the beginning when Will Ferrell's making the case that they should choose their perp. And that would have been like even longer. And I get why they moved it or cut it, but it's a really good song.
There's so much good in the first 30 or 40 minutes, but it's kind of it's repetitive. Like every character doesn't need an establishing song. I mean, I just feel like I feel like I was watching the director's cut for the first half an hour to 45 minutes. Then after that, just made up for it in its entirety.
But that's the kind of thing where on subsequent viewings, because you know where it's going, it feels less that way. I think you actually are sort of interested in kind of getting established more in that world, and you know where it's going to go. And so, but yeah, I understand a lot of times on the first viewing, it's like, okay, but I found myself movies that I love now. My first viewing, I was kind of like, do we need this? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess we do.
But in Daddy's Home 2, they cut down a cell phone tower and use it as a Christmas tree. That's a funny bit.
That movie is wretched. And did you just also previously admit that you just rewatched some terrible movie that you made me watch this year early on?
Which one?
I can't remember.
I'm sure I did.
I just heard you say, "Oh, I just rewatched blah." I'm like, Christmas with the Cranks or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I watch Christmas with the Cranks every year. I love that movie.
It is just unbearable sometimes, isn't it, Alonzo?
He's frozen again. He's frozen with hatred. He's frozen with hatred.
I love it.
Hashtag 25 weeks of Christmas. If y'all did not go back and watch that, please make my suffering
worthwhile. And I'm loving the Santa Clauses.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
You're a monster. See, I'm not the monster in this episode. You're the monster.
It's definitely Brand.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fine. Listen, everybody.
We're like a badge of honor, baby.
Mediocrity
has their
needs a champion, and that champion is a brand.
Absolutely.
Daddy-
I have said that
Daddy's
for
home,
years.
Daddy's Home 2 wishes it was mediocre.
True. It does cross the line into pure on garbage.
That's right.
Did we do it? Did you
We
do
did
it? What the fuck's
Yeah, I
great,
did
great,
it.
great.
Yeah, we're good.
Congratulations, everybody. Next week, it's the final one of the year.
Are we doing Jacqueline Collier Presents Jacqueline Collier's Fit
I
for
think we
Christmas?
should. I think we should do
Yes.
Fit for
Okay.
Christmas.
What was the highest rated Christmas movie of the year? We may as well.
It was a toss up of that one or the Neil Bledsoe CBS movie, and I mean, I think since Jax is here,
Yeah,
we
let's do it.
gotta do that, right? Can't wait for it, everybody. Wow, have some fun today, right?
Right.
Have some Christmas fun today. Watch
Get
Daddy's
there.
Home 2. We'll be back next time. Until then, it was first to wish you a Merry Christmas.